Disclaimer. The views discussed are opinions, not medical facts. For official COVID-19 info, visit the WHO or CDC. You might know Jeffrey Sachs as an economist, but recently he's been raising serious questions about the origins of COVID-19. In a podcast interview, Sachs suggests that the virus may have come from a lab, and that there hasn't been enough transparency to rule it out. This isn't a fringe theory anymore. It's being debated at high levels. But Sachs goes further than most. Let's take a look at what he actually said and why it's getting attention.
Let's be clear, the U.S. government, under any interpretation, and this is 100%, not 99%, has covered up what is known about this virus.
I'll tell you a sad truth, also a little surprising. And I have to admit, what I'm about to tell you is only 99% sure. But my view, based on very extensive work over the last 4.5 years, is that COVID came from the University of North Carolina, which is the leading researcher on beta coronaviruses, working with the U.S. government on a set of grant proposals that identified putting in the viral change that created SARS-CoV-2. It's a grim truth. It's ugly. It's been hidden from view. The reason I mention it in this context is we don't have any global governance that is effective right now to control the manipulation of dangerous pathogens like the manipulation that created the pandemic. And when it happened, and officially it took 7 million deaths, but probably if you count all of the deaths associated with COVID, it was probably closer to 20 million deaths. Even when that happens, it's never properly investigated. It's covered up.
Professor Sachs, welcome here. Did Dr. Fauci lie under oath, and did the United States government hide material information from the public during and following the COVID pandemic?
Yes, and until today. Even at the beginning of the pandemic, the insiders understood that this was most likely from the lab. In fact, of course, NIH, and that means Fauci, funded the research that most likely caused this virus. They knew that as early as late January 2020. They knew it on a call on February 1st, 2020, which subsequently came to light because of the Freedom of Information Act release. There's been a lot of lying and a lot of fraud. Now it's pretty much said by the U.S. government, well, yes, it was a lab leak, but from China, but not telling the key part, which is that it was most likely created in the United States. Maybe tested in China, maybe accidentally released in China, but most likely created by NIH grants in the United States, at least with a substantial amount of U.S. funding and investment of whatever happened. And insiders understand this, but this has been hidden from view during the whole period. And we could find out a lot more by investigating U.S. laboratories, University of North Carolina being a primary case, Rocky Mountain Laboratory of the National Institutes of Health being a second case where the evidence has not come to light. The research is not known. Whether the CIA or FBI or others have investigated this is also not known to us in the public, but there's been no systematic report of what should be understood.
Professor Sachs, you are alleging a vast conspiracy. How many people were involved in this? How many people know or knew this at the time and kept it from the president and kept it from the public?
Well, dozens of people, because the virology community around Fauci, around NIH, had very clear reasons for suspicion, and those reasons for suspicion have only increased from the start. There are aspects of the virus in the genetic code that are kind of a signature to point the way that this is a laboratory-created virus. Of course, it's a natural virus in the essence, but then with changes that are made. And there are a couple of changes that are kind of signature changes that even point to the authorship. And this is known among a relatively small group of people. In 2021, a whistleblower in the U.S. government posted a very important document on the Defense Department website of a grant proposal that described the work that probably created this virus. The response is, oh, that work wasn't funded by the Defense Department after all, it was just a proposal. But there's good reason to believe that the work, in fact, was funded by a group of NIH contracts, because the principal investigators of the grant that was posted on the Department of Defense website, in fact, were funded in 2018 and 2019 by the National Institutes of Health. There's a lot more circumstantial evidence that's extremely important. Some of these pieces have been put together by a House investigative committee. Some are well understood by Senator Rand Paul and his office, because he's been very assiduous in pushing forward the investigation. But there's a large part that is either not properly investigated yet, or has been looked at and hidden from view to the public about the U.S. role in all of this. And the U.S. role is very substantial, without doubt, in the science, in the intention of modification of the virus, and most likely in the creation of the virus.
Are there any good guys in this story, and where can you expect it to proceed from here? I mean, you shared with me a very lengthy, detailed, complex summary of the research, which is filled with scientific statements and scientific terminology. I mean, is that going to get in the hands of the FBI?
Well, it will get in the hands of the World Health Organization at a minimum, and should get in the hands of U.S. authorities, because what I shared is known public information, and many studies now that have pointed, again, I'd say 99%. There is missing information for sure. Lab notebooks, electronic files, emails, and so forth around the critical period at UNC, at Rocky Mountain Lab, and others that should urgently be looked into. Maybe they have been. Maybe they've been expunged. Maybe people do know. I don't know. I don't have any knowledge of or interest in, classified information. I know what I see publicly, and what you see publicly is the signature of a manipulated virus linked to publicly known NIH grants, and with a lot of forensic evidence, if I can put it that way. By that, right, I mean behavioral evidence of how these people behaved that we know of, because of brave reporters on The Intercept and other places that have pursued the Freedom of Information Act against the secrecy of the U.S. government. let's be clear, the U.S. government, under any interpretation, and this is 100%, not 99%, has covered up what is known about this virus. What the ultimate answer is still with some uncertainty, but the cover-up of critical information is absolutely indisputable and shockingly fraudulent papers. I think it's the only way to put it.
Do you have any information about whether Presidents Biden and Trump are aware of this?
I don't personally know. They should be. It's not secret stuff. It's just not discussed. And what they should be doing is not pointing the finger to China and why doesn't China tell us this and that. What they should be doing is investigating what happened right here in the United States. Okay. Because this is available to the U.S. government, to the legal authorities, to the FBI, to people who need to be investigating this. There is, for example, there have been Freedom of Information Act lawsuits for University of North Carolina to release emails in the critical period, and they've refused to do so. Well, this is something the U.S. government should be actively pursuing.
Disclaimer. The views discussed are opinions, not medical facts. For official COVID-19 info, visit the WHO or CDC.